honored to be here, and I would like to begin by offering my heartfelt sympathy to all those who are suffering in the current floods and other disasters in southern Brazil. I've seen the images on my feed, and my heart is breaking for the thousands of people who've lost their homes, their families, and sometimes their lives. My heart breaks too because this is not just a problem in southern Brazil. This is an issue all over the world. Fires, floods, typhoons, hurricanes, drought, the effects of climate change, or as I prefer to talk about it, global heating, because that's what's going on. We are heating up the world. The effects of global heating are already causing immense suffering. And when we look forward, even under some of the best scenarios, there is going to be a lot more suffering. The good news is that we can do something about it. And we have the technology and the resources and an understanding of what will help us not fix global heating, but adapt to it, slow it down, control it, prevent it getting much worse. And I think that's fantastic news. And I think that one of the things all of us can do is begin to act. Because in the face of this grief and suffering, there's nothing like doing something, I think, to help us move forward with hope. So you asked me, what can we do? And of course, there is so much that we can do. In the largest scale, we need global cooperation across governments to set limits on the burning of fossil fuels so that we really address this problem at the root. But in the short term, those of us who work in business can also play an immensely important role. And that's something I try and talk through in my book, Reimagining Capitalism in a World on Fire. And I try and give lots of examples and, talk about the fact that this takes a little effort, takes a little attention, but is absolutely consistent with being a profitable business. So what can you do as a business person in this space? Well, the first thing you can do is think, how do I reduce my use of fossil fuels? How do I cut the emissions that my business and my supply chain is causing? And research, both by me and by many others, suggests that for the typical business, it depends, of course, what industry you're in, but for the typical business, you can cut your emissions by 30 to 40% and make money by doing so. One of my favorite examples is Walmart, one of the largest employers in the world. And Walmart has cut the amount of fossil fuel derived energy they use by more than 30% over the last 10 years. And all of that has been contributing to their profits. One of the classic examples of what they've done is redesign the efficiency of the trucks in their shipping fleet. And that redesign alone has brought more than $1 billion a year to their bottom line. And I love the example of Walmart because we know that Walmart is not some kind of bleeding heart, lots of extra money kind of firm. This is a firm with very thin margins, very tightly managed, and they have found that addressing this issue, both in their own business and the supply chain, is a serious and significant source of profits. So firstly, what can you do inside your own business to make energy use more efficient? What else can you do? Well, you can start to move into new businesses that address this problem at the root. So if you're in the energy or power business, my guess is you're already thinking about the opportunities to move away from fossil fuel power to renewables and other sources of power like nuclear and hydropower that don't rely on greenhouse gases. So There is opportunity in batteries, in really rethinking the transportation sector, the move from conventional vehicles to electric vehicles. In food, the move from meat to meat alternatives is an enormous and growing business across the world. I say that a little bit nervously in the Brazilian context because I understand how central beef is to the Brazilian context. My husband was raised in Brazil and I've loved visiting. But one of the things we need to do is change how we think about what we eat. We need to reforest, replant the forests. We need to think about our whole economy in different ways. So in my book, I give many concrete examples. At the business school, we have more than 300 cases describing what firms are doing to address the problem of climate change full on. And then let me just mention another couple of really important things. One is working together, firms working together to reduce emissions. One of the most successful examples of cooperation in the world is Brazilian firms working together with major Western consumer goods firms to reduce deforestation in the Amazon. So Brazil has been a leader in this space, could be an example to the rest of the world. Another thing that business can do is support government action in this space. The first thing I said was we need government to commit to reducing emissions. Everything gets easier if everyone works together to cut emissions, because we need all of us to contribute so no one is disadvantaged when they move in this direction. And last but not least, business can help everyone understand that responding to climate change does not mean we live in poverty. We can still have growth. We can still have wonderful lives full of friendship and meaning and connection if we begin to move the economy in this direction. So as I said, I'm heartbroken about what's happening all over the world. But I think as we begin to respond, we can rediscover the importance of focusing on the long term and of building a better world for our children and of reconfiguring our economies so they're in the service of long-term healthy green growth. It's eminently possible. It will take work and energy, but it can be done.